Hello and welcome to the Morphin Loft. Without a shadow of a doubt, what I'm going to show you today takes its time and is an amazing automated Megazord, which isn't something you see very often. The Time Shadow from Power Rangers Time Force. So the Time Shadow is first seen in episode 20 of Power Rangers Time Force, the Time Shadow. They spent ages trying to name that. When a mysterious benefactor sends this to the past to help the Rangers. Now, spoiler alert, it's Alex, the original Time Force Red Ranger, Wes's descendant from the future, played by Jason Fon, to send to Wes, who's also played by Jason Fon. And the Time Shadow is an automated Megazord, so no Ranger pilots it. And it descends through the moon, there's an eclipse. It's just a really great looking Zord as well. It has an emulated look of Time Force. It looks sort of like the Time Jet does when the Time Flyers combine, but it's more than that. It has these big jets, it's spread out, it has this catamaran kind of feel with these big cannons on the front and the Time Force symbol right in the middle. It also has a small gun underneath, which is the head of the Zord. It does have wheels. You know what I like about toys with wheels? They roll. These ones need a bit of WD-40, but it's pretty cool. And it's easy to get in and out. But this isn't the only suggested jet mode for this Zord. It comes with this weapon for the combined modes, which then also has the mask. And this sits on here as a massive Gatling cannon on top. And it's a good way of using what you get given in the set as completed pieces. You know what I'm like, I like stuff to combine in all modes, in the same way that the Shadow Sabers are here and here, hidden away, which it actually does in the show, which is a really nice reference. This can sit on top, so you're not losing these parts. I'm sure a lot of people that are looking for this second hand know how hard this piece is to find. Now I'm going to compare the Time Shadow to the Time Jet. And it's obviously a lot wider, clearly. And it's sleeker, it's lower down. It has much more, as I said before, a catamaran aerodynamic feel, whereas this is a bulky jet. In the same way it has the front cannons here, this also has these two large cannons, which it does use, and then the detailing of the fingers across the front becoming Gatling cannons is something that I really like. It has loads of weapons to it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 blasters just in this mode. So it's really cool. It wheels just as well, probably because they're the same molds of wheels. And I think they mould together really well. They have the same vibe, they have the same V across the front, obviously. The Time Shadow's one is a lot wider, and this does actually hold Rangers. If you wanted to put Rangers in here, you could. In the same way you could put them in this one, which I've already said in another review. Go and check it out. Now let's see it in Megazord mode. Now, even with the time lapse, that took a really long time, and it does have one of the more fiddly transformations compared to a lot of Megazords. It's semi-unstable because it only has 2 joints that hold it in place to keep that whole body together. So it does easily slide off. And because of the way it transforms, it's quite difficult to keep intact. It's one of the most easily broken Zords. Actually, under here, these 2 struts easily pop out. So it's quite common to find this broken. So if you are looking for a second hand, be careful, because it's not the easiest thing to find intact, especially with a sprung action head. Now, it has large missiles here, which look really great, having this broad backplate. It doesn't hide the fact that it has large wings and then still flies in this mode. I would have liked something with these, as this is just a chunk of plastic that doesn't do anything else. If we just had a button on the back so they have maybe a clicking, rotating action, it would have been something that really added to this. However, having said that, it is a really weighty sword. It has metal parts. It's really strong and intact, but it comes from this era of Power Rangers. Ninja Storm, Wild Force, Time Force, this era of quality, high-grade Megazords that are the same as the Super Sentai versions, and they're just really good. They're the ones that are favoured across eBay and other search sites. People always want Wild Force, people always want Ninja Storm, and people always want Time Force. I know that's also because the shows are really good, but I think the quality level in the toys is so high, and that's the appealing aspect of it. So in terms of weapons, it has Shadow Sabers. Now, instead of having a silver strip like they do in the show, these are just clear plastic, and I don't feel like they miss out for that. You probably can't see from that far away, but it has really nice detailing across the blade. It's really well done. My only downside of it is, so he holds them, if I can get them on. But on the left hand, instead of being a solid piece, it goes all the way through. So when he combines the weapons, they fit on one hand. However, it looks a bit odd on this hand. Also, the Time Shadow always has them like pointed down. So then to actually do that, the hands have to be in quite a weird position. So it does look a little strange. Actually having them pointed up looks better, but not show accurate. The weapon does also combine, they easily slot together. I don't know how reliable that will be long term. I think if you kept doing that, this might eventually break. But the plastic is quite moldable, it's quite rubbery, so it doesn't feel like it's going to snap. And then that goes onto the hand for a finishing move. And I don't think you had to have it go all the way through. I think if it was the same on both weapons, that the plastic went over the top, I don't think it would be any less sturdy than it is, and the fingers don't even necessarily go all the way through anyway. I like this blade. It has the same kind of crescent shape as the Time Shadow does itself, so it has that lunar eclipse theme continuing to run through, and I just really like it. It has the blaster fingers, sort of like, what am I thinking of? Thought of the Megazord in Power Rangers Mighty Morphin, and then even the Gatling fingers in Power Rangers Lost in Space. Lost in Space? Power Rangers in Space. Now let's get combining these. Firstly, with Time Force Red. Now this part is fiddly, it's the only way to describe it. You have to lift this up enough for that to lock in, to then pull the hip grips out to get onto the hip. So that sits well, and then you pull this over the chest so it sits there like that. And then these cannons sit facing forward there. And then with the Time Ultra Saber, Ultra Time Mega Super Saber, this is actually sent through the portal by the yellow Whack-A-Mole Timezord, which is the name I can't remember, but I'll probably put it on the screen now. And this gets sent through and goes in like that. And then finally, the visor stays in a vertical position and clips nice and easily into the eye holes. Now this is the Time Shadow Red. And the only thing I'm not crazy about with this is it feels like it's leaning forward slightly. Aside from that, it looks really cool. It has the wings, it has the struts. It's a strong, clear, coherent combined Megazord. It is quite a simple transformation, almost throwing back to old school Super Sentai in its level of simplicity when combining. And if it didn't look so great, I'd have a problem with that. It's all metallic and it's strong and you can see where each Megazord is, but it feels like a clear combined Zord. There's not loads of playability to it. You have arm movement, but that's limited by the cannons at the top. And you could, let's do it, why not? And you can put it on wheels. So he can wheel about. But like I said, he's not the most stable of Zords. The actual sword itself is really cool. It has loads of detailing on it, a giant blue blade, and even inside here, there's a riveted core. So this looks like more than just a big chunk of clear plastic. It's just a really brilliant combination. And this doesn't lock in as much as you'd like. Right here along the torso because it's being held on by clipping on. Can I make it better? Yeah, no, I can't. That is all it's going to get. And so it feels a little bit wobbly, especially if you have it on the wheels. So it ends up sitting back a little bit. But that is that mode and it's badass. These shoot nets to catch a monster and hold it in place. It's just a brilliant looking combination and it sits really well on the shelf. Like that is something you're happily displaying at your house. Now, what I consider to be my favourite mode out of these, Time Shadow Blue. Now there are some notable differences when transforming the blue. Firstly, there's struts here because obviously its feet are larger. And you clip those in. They're not the easiest to find, but they sit really solidly when you do get them in. And obviously this needs to adjust higher because the waist of the Megazord is sitting a lot higher. This plate spins round to reveal the Time Shadow Blue logo. And these cannons fold away to give it a larger wing. Aside from that, it's basically the same. You actually use the arms for a change on this, and that folds up, and the blade folds back. And then the eye slots in. And there you have it. And I like this Megazord a lot. This is my favourite in the Time Force series, really. It's got a large cannon. Like I said, I love the detailing within here and the sleek back across it. The eyepiece is a lot stronger. It has a clear, coherent difference to the Time Shadow Red one. Because of the height of it, this lifts a lot more, has an aerodynamic point to it from the front and from the back. Realised I've done this whole thing without folding the feet up. I'm gonna do it now and pretend I did it earlier. I think the blue lends itself more, primarily because the cockpit here is blue. So the chest piece then has a point to it and it almost makes a larger Time Force logo with the little logo in the middle. I would have liked lights and sounds with this series. Yes, we're getting strong metal parts, which is brilliant. And I appreciate that the Quantum Rex had so many lights and sounds and so much you could do that for this not to have it, I kind of understand. The downside with this is the playability aspect. Like before, there's not really much fighting you can do with it because these arms are so limited in their range of movement. And obviously the legs of blue mode are locked together, so then the feet are locked together. So even if you pull it apart, there's not really, you can barely get it far enough to do any kind of leg movement. So in terms of posing, this is basically all you're getting. So you turn into this mode and do a finisher, and that's about it. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think of this Megazord, because it's one of my favourites, because it's the era that I really remember as a kid. Thank you for watching. Like, follow, comment and subscribe for more videos, more photos, and of course, may the power protect you.